liberators during World War II.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Critz, and the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Conaway, each will control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Madam Speaker, I yield myself such time as I might consume and ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days within which to revise and extend the remarks on the resolution under consideration.
Without objection, so ordered. The gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I rise today in support of House Resolution 1483, recognizing the exemplary service and sacrifice of the soldiers of the 14th Armored Division of the United States Army, known as the Liberators, during World War II. I am very grateful to my colleague from Georgia, Dr. Gingrey, for his work in authoring this resolution. Madam Speaker, the distinctive designation Liberator is a title well earned by the brave men of the 14th Armored Division for their valor, heroism, and sacrifice in the Allied invasion of Western Europe and the liberation of prisoners of war, forced laborers, and concentration camps. Crossing over the Danube River in southern Germany through the concentration camps at Dachau, the troops of the 14th Armored Division became witness to evidence of some of the most appalling and brutal atrocities the world has ever seen. Their resolve in the face of unspeakable evil is testament to the strength of their conviction in the American ideals of freedom and democracy that ultimately led the Allies to victory in 1945. As the soldiers of the 14th Armored Division advanced toward the Stalag 7A POW camp near Moosburg, Allied prisoners of war, including American soldiers, sailors, and airmen, waited in nervous hope as the sounds of fighting and the prospect of their own freedom grew even closer. Despite being outnumbered by SS troops, the men of the 14th fought valiantly to overpower them and went on to carry out the liberation of one of the largest POW camps in Germany. The flag of the 14th Armored Division, along with those of many other liberating units, is displayed at the entrance of the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum as a permanent reminder of the courage of these and other American liberators who put their own lives in danger so that others could be free from oppression and fear. Madam Speaker, I urge my colleagues to recognize and commend the service of the soldiers of the 14th Armored Division, of whom it has been said that heroism, sacrifice, and achievements above and beyond the call of duty were everyday occurrences. By voting in favor of House Resolution 1483, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Pennsylvania reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise in strong support of House Resolution 1483 as amended, which recognizes the service and sacrifices of the members of the 14th Armored Division during World War II. I want to commend my friend Phil Gingrey of Georgia for sponsoring this legislation. The 14th Armored Division first went into action in November 1944 and established an impressive fighting record in France and Germany during more than 130 days of combat. In January 1945, a 46-year-old World War I Marine veteran, Private First Class George B. Turner, earned the Medal of Honor for his extraordinary heroism that helped the division repel repeated German attacks. Turner was a graduate of Whitworth Military Academy in Missouri, that fine educational institution long supported by our chairman, Ike Skelton, and despite PFC Turner's age and prior service, he again volunteered for military service out of a sense of duty. As the division history notes, during training, many of the young soldiers and officers with whom he served came to admire his quiet strength and dedication to duty. Private PFC Turner soon gained the reputation of being a good soldier who truly wanted to come to grips with the enemy. Coming to grips with the enemy is something that Turner and his fellow soldiers of the 14th Armored Division did unhesitatingly and very well. As we approach the 65th anniversary of the end of World War II, it's fitting that this House honor the sacrifices of the men of that division who served the nation in securing a lasting victory. Today, soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines have made the same commitment to this nation. We must heed the lessons learned from the 14th Armored Division, and today fully support our troops and families with the resources necessary for them to finish the job in the wars that America is fighting today. I urge every member of our body to support this resolution, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Madam Speaker, I continue to reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman
Madam Speaker, it's a great pleasure. I yield as much time as he may consume to my good colleague from Georgia, Phil Gingrey.
Gentleman from Georgia is recognized for as much time as he might consume.
Madam Speaker, thank you, and I rise today in support of House Resolution 1483 to honor the service and sacrifice of the 14th Armored Division during World War II. And I thank my friend, the distinguished chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, Ike Skelton of Missouri, for being an original co-sponsor. And I also want to thank Representative Kreitz of Pennsylvania and Representative Conaway of Texas for their support. As Americans learn about World War II, most are familiar with the Battle of the Bulge, yet few know about Hitler's last major offensive along the Western Front. Operation Nordwind was Hitler's final attempt at pushing back the Allied march toward Germany. The Allies blocked the German counterattack, and the Germans began withdrawing to defensive positions. But victory came with a heavy price, Madam Speaker. Of the approximately 41,000 casualties, roughly 16,000 were from Allied forces. Today, I ask all of my colleagues to join me in honoring one armored division, the 14th, that played a vital part in stopping this offensive. Madam Speaker, the 14th Armored Division arrived in Marseille, France on October the 29th, 1944, and soon after participated in the liberation of the French province of Alsace that November. The 14th went on to enter Germany on December the 6th, 1944. In addition to its efforts in Operation Nordwind, the men of the 14th Armored Division liberated tens of thousands of Allied personnel from German captivity. Among them were thousands of Americans. So celebrated is the legacy of the 14th, Madam Speaker, that the division has been distinguished and designated as a, quote, liberating unit by the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in recognition of its liberation of civilians of many nationalities from concentration camps. All in all, Madam Speaker, in their selfless efforts to free those confined to these camps, 447 of the 14th's finest were killed in action. 1,998 were wounded in combat, and to this day, 442 are missing in action. Madam Speaker, I came to know the storied history of the 14th Armored Division through my Deputy District Director, John O'Keefe, whose grandfather, Private First Class Norman Narstead, served in the 62nd Armored Infantry Battalion of the 14th Armored Division, and he indeed was killed in action on March 1st, 1945. With John's help and that of the division historian, Jim Langford, we were able to put together House Resolution 1483. It is especially timely that given the 14th Armored Division Association will be holding its 45th annual reunion on September the 8th, and with the anniversary of the end of World War II right around the corner. In honor of this occasion, Madam Speaker, I ask all of my colleagues to join me today in honoring the liberators. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time, Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Georgia yields back. The gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Madam Speaker, I continue to reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Texas.
Madam Speaker, we have no more speakers, and I urge my colleagues to support House Resolution 1483, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Texas yields back the balance of his time. Gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Madam Speaker, I urge support of 1483. I commend Dr. Gingrey for his leadership, and at this time I have no further requests for time, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Pennsylvania yields back the balance of his time. The question is,